So after having said what is biblical wisdom, already we said it's a practical wisdom, right? Practical and pragmatic and utilitarian. I will come back to the wider range in which the biblical literature has emerged. Under that we will see point B, scribal schools in ancient Near East. Scribal schools, scribe, writer. Scribal schools in ancient Near East. Already we have said in the introduction, the biblical wisdom is emerging from ancient Near Eastern wisdom literature, right? It has got background. Now, if only we want to know biblical wisdom, we also should know some of the development, how wisdom literature or wisdom movement began in ancient Near East. In ancient, it is a third millennium or end of the third millennium, beginning of the second millennium, that wisdom movement began. So, what was happening in the cultures around in ancient Near East? There began the states or there began kingdoms. Previously people were moving from place to place, different places, and they started settling down and establishing the kingdoms. With that began the civilization. And once people started staying in one place, common place, then there emerged need for reading and writing skills. Therefore, in Mesopotamia, there began scribal schools. In Mesopotamian scribal schools, they are called house of tablets. Mesopotamian scribal schools are called house of tablets. What was the writing form? What was the literature? What was that they were using for writing? They were using cuneiform things of writing. So, what is cuneiform way of writing? We have alphabets, right? In each language we have alphabets with which we write our language. And in the beginning, the Mesopotamian culture, it is cuneiform form of writing, expression. So these are wedge-shaped letters. So it communicated some information. As we have alphabets, this was the alphabetical alphabets that these scribal schools had in Mesopotamia. But whereas Egypt's scribal school is called House of Life. That one is House of Tablet. This is Mesopotamia. This is Egypt. These are the two ancient civilizations we heard, right? Even in our history classes we heard, these are the ancient civilizations. So the ancient civilizations of Mesopotamia, the writing style is cuneiform. In Egypt, the scribal school, they are called House of Life. The writing form is hieroglyphic. Hieroglyphic we know, pictographic. So persons, things are drawn on the wall or somewhere on the tablets. So it communicates information. You understand? This is how the schools began in ancient Near East. Now if there are only schools, we know there are books. There are books, there is literature. We are studying how the wisdom began in ancient Near East. So these are the two schools, one in Mesopotamia, one in Egypt. One is House of Tablet, another one is House of Life. And both the places instruction was going on. Wisdom teaching was going on. So this is the beginning of ancient Near Eastern wisdom. Understand? Yeah, you will understand it clear. Now, what did they teach? That is important point. What were they teaching in these two schools, both in Mesopotamia and Egypt as well? What they were teaching? They were teaching fundamental skills of reading and writing. In these scribal schools, which paved way for wisdom in ancient Near East, they were teaching, first of all, fundamental skills for ordinary people, skills for the ruling class like kings. And what they were also teaching, fundamentals of administration to kings. They were also teaching. These scribal schools in ancient Near East also involved teaching fundamentals of administration and survival ethics. Now we shall read one of the Egyptian texts, Egyptian instruction. A wise man is giving an advice to his student. Always you understand, in ancient Near East, the wise man is called father. The students, those who come to know, come to learn to him, they are called as sons. That's why even in our wisdom literature, especially book of Proverbs, the instructor is addressing his son as, his pupil as son. You have heard? We'll see some of the references later. So now this wise man is giving an instruction to one of his pupils. What he says? He says about, if you are called to attend a dinner at royal court, he is giving an instruction. I'll just read for you, just pay attention. If thou art one of those sitting at the table of one greater than thyself, take what he may give, when it is set before thy nose. Thou shouldst gaze at what is before thee. Do not pierce him with many stares. Let thy face be cast down until he addresses thee. And thou shouldn't speak. Only when he addresses, you should speak. Laugh after he laughs, and it will be very pleasing to his heart. So this is an instruction of a wise man to those who are of royal court, of younger students. In the court there is king, to his student, to his royal family. In the beginning, who were the educated? King's family, right? Early days. So therefore, he is giving advice, he is teaching the royal court people, the younger generation, when you are sitting with the king, how you are to sit. First of all, you should put your head down, not up, looking at him, piercing your side should not pierce him. Unless he addresses you, you should not lift up your head. These are the instructions. Wise man is teaching to his people. Then, when you are sitting with him, don't grab whatever you like, but take what he gives. You have to take what he gives. That is the instruction. Then he also says, laugh after his laugh. You can't simply open your mouth and giggle there on the table or make fun. That's what we follow in our refectory, and main table when fathers are sitting with us. Okay, right? These are table manners, brothers. It's not today coming. It's been instructed long years ago. There are set rules. So this is what ancient wisdom we are learning. Then not only this ancient wisdom, scribal schools, the wise people, they were also teaching psychological insights. Psychology is taught now, but much before that, psychology being taught. I'll just read something for you what is being written in ancient Near Eastern texts, in Egyptian texts. One of the instruction. If thou art one to whom petition is made, be calm as thou listens to the petitioner's speech. Do not rebuff him before he has swept out his body, or before he has said for which he has come. A petitioner likes attention to his words better than fulfilling of that for which he has come. It is not necessary that everything about which he has petitioned should come to pass. A good hearing is a soothing of the heart. Very important instruction at the end. He tells, this is an admonition to the young kings who are going to be kings. To them he advises. To the king there are so many petitioners coming, right? Nowadays we have courts and judges and all that. So all our petition, all our matters are being settled. But in the ancient world, it's king who settles the matter between the disputes of the people. Now to that, a psychological insight is giving. Most of you might have gone through some of the psychological courses in your BPH, philosophy time. Yeah, there one of the main thing of psychology is, first of all, you should sit quiet when if you are a counseling, and someone has come for a counseling, then what you do? You have to listen. So, fundamental, basic proponents of psychology. You have to hear all that what he says, but to carefully listen what he says. Now, psychological insight details. If a petitioner is coming to you, O young king, thou shalt not rebuff, immediately speak. He will be telling something, but immediately you shall not speak. Bombard him with a lot of questions. Listen. Most of the time it happens, even in our life. Somebody comes to, they begin something, we conclude. No, it should not be like that. It should not be like that. So he says, the wise man says, listen completely. Now we remember what he says. You listen till the end. Why? Because one who came, the petitioner, he is not deserving from you the worthy decision. He wants somebody to listen to. There are people in this world, so many, especially when you are priests in your parishes, some will be coming. This is also an advice to you. It's an advice to you all. When you sit in your office, there are so many people with a lot of problems. They come and they speak. Therefore, when they speak, you shall not decide what to do, what shall I do. No, you listen. They want only listening. Some want only listening. They don't want any action to be taken. They don't, sometimes situation do not demand, sometimes they themselves do not demand it, or they don't expect you to do something, but they want only to listen. So therefore listen. You should be a listening priest. If you are a listening brother only, you will be a listening priest. So take care. Thus, despite this, there were also these scribal schools in ancient Israel. What they were doing, they were collecting from, wisdom is not emerging today now. So all these proverbial sayings are coming from far distant generations. So now these wise people, what they were doing, they were collecting all the wisdom sayings, okay, and compiling books, starting a literature, making books, literature, making available for others to read so that they will know what is ancient wisdom. So this is another one. Now among the literary works, ancient Israel or ancient Near East, what are the main things that these wise people were concerned with? They were concerned with question of innocent suffering. The wise people were concerned about innocent suffering. Book of Job it raises a lot of questions about innocent suffering. Job says, I am innocent, but still I am suffering. And now why innocent suffers? This is one of the main concerns of ancient Near Eastern wise people. Therefore, they have written literature about innocent suffering. Why innocent suffers? Book of Job is one of them. Then second one is meaning of life. They have written books on meaning of life. What is the meaning of life? Then human immortality. They have written, can man become immortal? So this is the wise people's thinking, thought. Now from that we have some examples like story of Gilgamesh epic. Have you gone through Pentateuch? Pentateuch you have studied, right? Otherwise you will not reach up to wisdom literature. Okay? Yeah, Pentateuch you have studied, I suppose, right? In the first year theology. Who was your Pentateuch professor? Okay, whoever it is. There you might have studied about Gilgamesh epic, right? Have you gone through Gilgamesh epic? Something is there in the mind? Yeah, it has got two. It's a Sumerian text originally. It's been adopted by Babylonians and afterwards so many people. So now he is a king in a particular kingdom, and therefore in the first part he has got a friend Enkidu. So at the end what happens in the second part, Enkidu dies. They are good friends. Gilgamesh and Enkidu, they are good friends. Now Enkidu dies. Now Gilgamesh, he begins his search. Why my friend died? It grieves him so much. Therefore he wants to find, can man become immortal? So he begins his search. At the end, he reaches somewhere, crosses so many rivers, and at the end he is being told that there is a plant which can be given to person. Then he regains his life back, and therefore he goes and collects that plant. He takes a lot of tedious journey. Then he puts that plant next to river bed and he goes for bath. By the time he comes, one snake swallows it. Imagine, he has gone long way, then he comes back. No, what the text is trying to say is an insight, giving an insight into human immortality. Can human become immortal? So this is an answer for this question. The story of Gilgamesh epic would be teaching the young, man's life is not, man cannot attain immortal. He is not God. He cannot remain forever. He has to die. Certainty of death is there. So we can't deny. No one can deny certain stuff. So a lot of things are spoken by this Gilgamesh epic. So we are told, started from the cuneiform and wedged sword and what is that, hieroglyphic form of literature, we have come to writing literature, books, epics. So through this, already as I said, in Egypt, a lot of influence in Hebrew literature. Egyptian wisdom thought is so much imprinted or has got a lot of influence, because already we know these Hebrews, or we call it patriarchs. Our patriarchs are so much time they were in Egypt, right? Started from during the time of Jacob, or say Joseph. From Joseph to almost like 400 years they have, 200 years they have been in land of Egypt. So they know well about Egyptian wisdom thought has much influenced these people. So after their return also, it continued. So therefore we are trying to say influence of Egyptian wisdom on Israel's wisdom thinking. That point we are trying to say. Now there are different tablets. Egyptian texts and biblical texts would match similar. Egyptian texts were much ancient and biblical texts are later. So now what Egyptian text would say? One of the Egyptian texts I shall read. It would read, There are so many similarities. One of the Egyptian texts would read, "Beware of the robber, an unfortunate and of flying into rage with the weak. Do not move the landmarks at the edge of the fields." So these are the wisdom instruction of the Egyptian text. Likewise, Israel text, or say our wisdom literature, what you would see? Say, kindly take Proverbs chapter 22 verse 22 to 23. There we will see same instruction. Egyptian text would say, do not remove landmarks at the edge of the fields. Then it also says, do not plunder the weak. Likewise, what the biblical text is trying to say, let's see. Do not rob the poor because he is poor, or crush the afflicted at the gate. For the Lord will plead for their cause and despoil of life those who despoil them. Those who mistreat the poor will be mistreated by God. God will mistreat them. And the instruction also continues, remove not the ancient landmark which your fathers have set. So olden days, even now, every property has got a landmarks, right? So nowadays, very common thing that is happening concerning the land disputes is removing the landmarks. When I am not there, so what do you do? Between our fields, I take the landmark and put some more inside your land, so that I can claim your land, portion of your land, right? These are things commonly happening. So Bible is saying, it's not Bible is saying, earlier Egyptian text also was saying same thing. So what we are trying to say, Israel's wisdom thought, wisdom literature is emerging from the background of Egyptian wisdom thinking. That you should keep in mind. There's the first section of all this. So there's so many other things, simple text that we don't need to much bother about. Then another important thing is what the ancient Near Eastern say, either it Mesopotamia or it Egypt, they would say everyone have to learn to live according to the world order. Keep that in mind always. Hereafter you will be hearing this word, world order. So God has guaranteed the world order. So world will continue, whether you and I are not there or we are there, order will go on. So what we have to do, that is important. As human beings, what we have to do? We have to conform our lives according to that world order. Now, in the Egyptian text, who is the guarantor of this world order? This is a math. They say math. Probably I will show that math. Sorry. Is it here? Yeah, she's here. Yeah, just see. This is the figure of math. Math is the world order. No, she guarantees that everything is going on well. According to Egyptian thought, she's called, the wisdom is called as math. So in her hand is the long pen, stands for righteousness, guarding the right thing of the world order. So this is the Egyptian way of thinking. So they say, according to this world order, This math guarantees this old order. Therefore, we all should conform to it. So, how can we conform to it? We should know it. What is the old order? Now, who teaches that? It is a wise. Therefore, everyone is called, encouraged to attend the schools. Nowadays, we have no compulsory school up to 10th compulsory school, right? Yes, right? 10th, everybody should get educated. So likewise, there is a clarion call. Olden days, there was no compulsory. Government was, kings were not for it, because most of the work had to be done by the people. Therefore, but these wise people, they were calling for this old order. Okay, comprehensive. The law is there, and we all should conform to that old order, they were saying. So this is about. This is a point B. Now we are coming to point C. Under first chapter, point C. You can write down 2 directions of wisdom thinking in Israel and in ancient Near East. 2 directions of wisdom thinking in Israel and in ancient Near East. Two directions of wisdom thinking in Israel and in ancient Near East. Shall we go? Yeah. In wisdom thinking, there are 2 directions. First one is pragmatic and optimistic. Pragmatic and optimistic. Now, what is this pragmatic and optimistic wisdom thinking in ancient Near East as well as in Hebrew text? What they are speaking about? Already we said, the wisdom that is presented in the book of Proverbs is practical and pragmatic. It would say, despite whatever the problems you have to put up with the life. You have to continue with the life. This is an optimistic way of looking at life and life situation, the problems. Secondly, the speculative and questioning thinking, questioning wisdom. One is optimistic wisdom or pragmatic wisdom. Second one is speculative. Speculative in the sense thinking or questioning. A book of Kohelet, book of Job would fall under this background, under this category. What the book of Job and these books would speak about? Why innocent suffer, right? Already we have said, why innocent suffer. In Egypt there is a text called A Dispute Over Suicide. There is a book called, there is a literature called A Dispute Over Suicide. And there is a man who is facing a lot of problems. In the Egyptian text, the text literature would say, a man is having a lot of problems. Now, he decides of killing himself, taking his soul. Now, his soul doesn't agree. They question. He proposes, he has got so many problems, but the other one is saying, but still you have to cope up with life. That's what it says. Likewise, book of Job will say, I am righteous, I am doing good, or I have done good, but still I am suffering. So these are the 2 different modes or different ways wisdom movement is moving towards, or wisdom thinking is presented in ancient Israel, always ancient Near East. Then 2 sources of biblical wisdom, or 2 sources of biblical wisdom. From where wisdom is coming from?